Riverview High School was in full swing when Maya Williams walked through the front doors, carrying a backpack over her shoulders and a mix of hope and anxiety in her heart. The autumn morning, with its soft sunlight filtering through the trees, looked promising, but Maya knew that the new school year could bring unexpected challenges. Maya was a dedicated student, known for her excellent grades and her talent for writing. She had hoped that this year would be different, that she would find a group of true friends and feel welcomed. However, her past kept her from forgetting the painful experiences of previous years, where racial prejudice manifested itself in uncomfortable looks and malicious comments. Mrs. Johnson, the history teacher, was already a respected figure in the school. With her strong stance and inclusive teaching approach, she always sought to create an environment where all students felt valued. Despite her own experience with discrimination, Mrs. Johnson had an unwavering determination to promote equality and fairness within the classroom. Maya entered the room with a shy smile, but soon found herself isolated. Most of her peer groups had already formed, and she realized that her hope for a new beginning was quickly fading. Mrs. Johnson noticed the worried look on Maya's face as she sat alone, and her concern for the new student began to grow. As students settled in for their first class, a sense of newness and anticipation filled the air. For Maya, however, the expectation of a welcoming environment was mixed with the trepidation of facing another year of quiet challenges. The school's first major event, a day dedicated to performances and cultural activities, promised to be a milestone for the school community. It was the perfect opportunity for Maya to showcase her skills and perhaps connect with new classmates. However, the day took an unexpected turn. The atmosphere was vibrant, with colorful booths and students eager to share their passions and projects. Maya had prepared a presentation on the influence of African American literature, a topic close to her heart. She felt nervous but excited, and hoped this would be the start of something positive. During her presentation, as she spoke enthusiastically about authors and their contributions, a group of students, led by Josh, began to taunt and make racist comments. The group laughed and muttered contemptuous remarks, interrupting Maya's presentation. The room, which had previously been filled with curiosity and interest, turned into a stage of mockery and disdain. Maya tried to ignore the comments and continue with her presentation, but the tension in the room was palpable. Her face flushed and her hands shook. The feeling of being devalued and ridiculed was overwhelming. She felt the weight of the dark circles and the laughter like a heavy burden, making her lose her confidence and clarity. Maya's performance ended abruptly, and she quickly walked off the stage, her eyes filling with tears. Ms. Johnson, who was watching from the back of the room, watched the scene unfold and felt a wave of sadness and outrage. She knew that what was happening was not just an isolated incident, but a reflection of a deeper, more systemic problem. When the event ended, Maya stood alone, her excitement replaced by quiet pain. Discrimination had marked the beginning of the school year with a sense of hopelessness and helplessness. Mrs. Johnson approached Maya, offering a sympathetic look and support that promised to be the first step toward change. After the incident, Maya withdrew from her peers and avoided school activities. The smile that used to light up her face disappeared, replaced by an expression of sadness and disconnection. She spent most of her days alone, hiding behind books and trying to distract herself from the hostile environment that seemed to have settled around her. Mrs. Johnson noticed a change in Maya, especially during history class, where she became increasingly withdrawn and disinterested. She knew something was deeply wrong. After some quiet observations and conversations with other teachers, Mrs. Johnson decided to take action. One afternoon after school, Mrs. Johnson found Maya sitting alone in the cafeteria. With a kind look, she approached her and invited her to talk in a more private space. Maya hesitated, but the genuine concern in the teacher's eyes made her accept. In the staff room, Maya broke down in tears as she recounted what had happened during the event. She spoke of the pain of being ridiculed and the feelings of helplessness she had felt. Ms. Johnson listened attentively, offering words of encouragement and empathy. She acknowledged Maya's pain and shared some of her own experiences, showing that she understood the complexities and challenges of racial bias. The conversation was a relief for Maya. Mrs. Johnson suggested that they work together on a project that could help raise awareness of diversity and inclusion at school. Maya, though still shaken, felt a new sense of hope. The idea of doing something positive, of turning her pain into action, began to give her a sense of relief. From that moment on, a new partnership was formed between Mrs. Johnson and Maya. Both were determined to confront prejudice head-on and create a more welcoming environment at school. The collaboration between Maya and Ms. Johnson began to take shape. They met after school to discuss the awareness project, detailing ideas for how to promote diversity and inclusion at school. Ms. Johnson helped Maya develop a plan for a series of workshops and cultural exhibits that would highlight the diverse experiences and perspectives of the students. However, the road to implementation was not easy. Maya faced resistance, both from some colleagues and from certain members of the school administration who were skeptical about the project's impact. She had to deal with the frustration of seeing her work minimized and the obstacles that arose along the way. Additionally, Maya continued to face snide comments and looks of disdain from some students. Mrs. Johnson's support was crucial during these difficult times. The teacher offered advice on how to deal with adversity and encouraged Maya to stay true to her mission. Together, they worked to reinforce the message that diversity was a strength, not a weakness. The project began to gain traction when Maya and Ms. Johnson organized a presentation where students could share their stories and cultural traditions. The initial response was lukewarm, but over time, more students began to participate, showing a growing interest in the initiative. Maya began to notice changes in herself. Through the challenges, she developed new confidence and a deeper understanding of the impact of her work. Not only did the project begin to make a difference at school, but it also helped Maya feel more connected to her peers and stronger in her identity. Mrs. Johnson watched Maya's growth with satisfaction. Her dedication and courage were evident, and she began to emerge as a leader within the school community. Together, they were creating a space where prejudice had no place and where everyone's voices were heard and respected. The big day had finally arrived. The diversity awareness event organized by Maya and Mrs. Johnson was about to begin. The school was decorated with flags representing different cultures and displays celebrating the diversity of the students. Maya, despite her excitement, felt a mix of pride and nervousness as she prepared for the keynote presentation. As the students and teachers gathered in the auditorium, Josh and his group, still expressing skepticism and hostility, found themselves in the audience. Maya knew they were there and felt extra pressure to show that her project was important and deserving of respect. The presentation began, and Maya took the stage with her heart racing. She gave an inspiring speech about the importance of empathy and mutual respect, using examples from personal stories and other students. Her voice was firm and clear, and the audience seemed attentive and engaged. However, during the speech, Josh and his group began interrupting, making provocative comments and laughing dismissively. They tried to destabilize Maya, but the student took a deep breath and continued, determined not to let the negativity get the better of them. Mrs. Johnson, observing the situation, decided to intervene. She stood up and took the floor, drawing everyone's attention to the importance of respect and inclusion. With calm firmness, she highlighted how the behavior of Josh and his classmates was a clear example of what the project was trying to combat. The teacher's intervention helped to calm the situation and bring the focus back to the positive message of the presentation. Maya, now with a new wave of confidence, ended her speech with a heartfelt call for unity and understanding. She shared a personal story about how solidarity and courage helped her overcome hardships. The audience responded with warm applause, and the atmosphere in the auditorium changed to one of support and understanding. The event was a success. Even Josh and his group began to reflect on their actions. Maya's courage and Mrs. Johnson's support had created a powerful moment of change and inspiration. The school seemed more united and willing to embrace the principles of inclusion promoted by the project. Within a few weeks of the awareness event, the change at the school was evident. The diversity and inclusion initiatives promoted by Maya and Mrs. Johnson became part of everyday school life. The school implemented new anti-bullying policies and organized regular activities to promote intercultural understanding. Maya began to feel the positive impact of her actions. She was welcomed more warmly by her peers and began to make new friends. Her confidence was restored, and she became a recognized leader in her school environment, actively participating in committees and events that promoted diversity. Josh, on the other hand, faced the consequences of his behavior. He was called in for a meeting with the school administration, and after a process of reflection and counseling, he began to demonstrate a genuine effort to understand and correct his mistakes. Josh volunteered and participated in discussion groups on bias and empathy, working to repair the harm he had caused. Ms. Johnson continued to support Maya and promote initiatives that aimed to create a more inclusive and respectful environment for all students. She became a passionate advocate for the importance of diversity education and the need for everyone to stand together against discrimination. The school climate improved significantly. The school community seemed more united and more aware of the importance of empathy and mutual respect. Maya felt fulfilled in seeing that her work was creating real, positive change. She and Mrs. Johnson were recognized for their efforts and received support from the entire school. Maya, now more confident and empowered, found a new purpose in her life. She knew the fight against prejudice was not over, but she felt she was on the right path to making a difference. The transformation that began with deep pain had led to a brighter, more inclusive future for everyone. The end of the school year brought a sense of accomplishment and hope for Maya and Mrs. Johnson. The changes they had begun at the school not only improved the environment for all students, but also demonstrated the power of determination and solidarity. Maya's project became a model for how positive action can confront prejudice and transform communities. Maya reflected on her journey and realized how each challenge had helped her grow and become stronger. She was now ready to take on new challenges with the confidence that she could make a difference. The experience had also reinforced her desire to pursue a career in activism and education, where she could continue to fight for equality and justice. Ms. Johnson, for her part, was proud of the impact her work had made. She was inspired by Maya's resilience and courage, and was motivated to continue her mission of promoting inclusion and empathy. The teacher knew that the fight against prejudice was ongoing, but she was confident that with effort and dedication, meaningful change was possible. The future looked bright for Maya and the school, which was now more united and inclusive. They had created a solid foundation for a school community that valued diversity and respect, and this was just the beginning.